Now, the Bushes, the Bush 41, Wolfowitz in particular, there were people in the Pentagon who dreamed of, well, basically dreamed of world domination. I mean, the Chinese aren't wrong. They dreamed of American hegemony everywhere. And when Bush suggested to Francois Mitterrand, the then French president, that they expand NATO to cover the rest of the globe, Mitterrand said, no, we're not discussing it. And Bush was very offended and insisted on discussing it later. And Mitterrand said, we never accepted this idea. It shouldn't be on the agenda, more or less. Go away. The Europeans met these new hegemonic ambitions from the United States under Bush 41 with disdain. And then when Clinton came in, Clinton didn't have a foreign policy, as was said in Arkansas, it's the economy, stupid. But Clinton sort of felt, he didn't feel quite right about that. And he was persuaded to have a foreign policy. And it was handed to him by the Brzezinski people, effectively, let's make Eastern Europe our priority. Let's finally put the Russians away. And this is where the idea of the expansion of NATO that was already mooted by three countries in Eastern Europe, Eastern Central Europe, Poland, Czechoslovakia, and Hungary. They wanted future protection against a future Russia. Yeah, but Russia was on its back. Russia wasn't about to attack anybody. It couldn't even win a war against the Chechens internally. There was a complete mess, and the economy was in a complete mess. So this was at a time when something constructive could have been done with Russia, but instead, the Clinton administration, embarrassed by the fact it hadn't got a foreign policy, and completely tied up in knots by the emerging what I would call civil war in Yugoslavia, the war between these ethnic entities in Yugoslavia that were intent on atrocities at every turn. I mean, if you look at the Clinton archives, the presidential archives, every meeting is beset with a discussion about Yugoslavia, and they ended up not being able to agree on anything.